European understand the Iraqi, the Shia-Sunni divide in terms of their own historical background? Because it doesn't, the Serbian-Croatian thing doesn't look right, because they are slightly ethnic, and their slang language thing and so on, political. But the Catholic Protestant, the European Middle European thing, this is what we want some insight about. How do they understand the schism between the Shia and Sunni? The other one is about the relationship between how does Islamophobia get affected by the sectarian divide, the Islamic sectarian divide, and how the Islamic divide is affected by Islamophobia. There was an incident I just want to mention. There was an incident that the Prevent program in Britain were kind of saying that you can ask the students, the children, what Islam you are in. And if they are Shia, then they may be okay. Now, does that apply to other European countries? Is that something general? That's one, there's a couple of things. And two questions quickly for Michael. One is that do you think actually that Iran's position in Iraq is defensive rather than really offensive? And the other one is about what do you think of the Sadr's response? You say about fragmentation of the Shia thing. Do you think the Shia, the current Sadr's response seemed to be that they seeing the attack on Fallujah as a distraction from the real problem of dealing with corruption and the lack of services to the poor?
Such independent scholar. That has been almost 1 month. I have conducted fieldwork in Iraq and Syria, actually the conflict between Hashd Shabia and the Sunni forces, the Kurds and the Sunni. Also in general, the Kurds in this fighting in Syria and Iraq. No, first of all, Hashd Shabia forces, they are not a united militia forces. They are divided between maybe 10 or 15 groups, but their sectarian identity is claim Shiaism, the first. But more than this, they are not only a sectarian group, they are also an ethnically Iranians and support Iranian identity. So in Iraq, they sectarianly, through a sectarian sense, they fight against the ISIS, but not only ISIS. Now they have begun to fight against the Sunnis in Fallujah, in Diyala, but also ethnically they began to fight against the Kurds in Hormatu, in Beshika. So taking Hashd Shabia through that sense, we can say that Iran is the main power behind the Hashd Shabia. So Haidar al-Abadi, or the main powers now in Iran, they are also not happy with the Hashd Shabia because they know that what will happen after the ISIS, and they know that Iran can use Hashd Shabia to design Iraqi policies against some Shias. Also, Sadr it is not true to say that Sadr is part of the Hashd Shabia. It is not true to say that. Some of the Sadrist movement, some people belong to Sadr. In Najaf, they joined the Hashd Shabia, but since 2015, they distanced to themselves. Now, I ask question. My question here, because I witnessed and took the interviews, I went to Fallujah, Diyala, Hormatu, Beshika, and Mohammed is one of them. We made interviews with many people. All Sunni people, almost all of them, they say that we prefer ISIS to the Hashd Shabia. And Hashd Shabia is now called as the Shia ISIS or Shia Daesh because they killed, they raped, they kidnapped, and they do whatever ISIS do, even they are worse than ISIS. My question is why the West, not only the Britain or the Germany or EU, why the West are silent against the Hashd Shabia's killings or politics in the Iraq? My question for the Bianca, and you said about the sectarian division. To be honest, sectarianism doesn't come only from the Shias. And when we look at the history, from the Ibn Hanbal since the 8th century, Ibn Hanbal, Ibn Taymiyyah, 13th century, Jazviyah, 13th century, Ibn Muhammad Abdul Wahhab in 18th century, Sayyid Qutb, and Abu Mustafa al-Zarqawi to ISIS, all these groups, they consciously revive Sunni, Salafi, Wahhabi sectarianism. And Iran also does this. Now, since 2003, this sectarianism just revived and took an institutional identity to the both sides. And my question is that in Europe and EU countries, they well knew that since 2000, even after the collapse of the Soviet Russia, why they didn't take any measure, or they didn't want to prevent rising of the Salafi and Wahhabism or militant Salafi sectarianism, and also rising of the militant Shia revivalism. Why the West was quite silent against this? And sorry for the next question, can you speak then? And thank you so much for your quite good historical explanation. You said it was a peaceful togetherness between the Kurds, Shias and Arabs until 2003 in Iran. Okay, they were together, but it was a forced marriage. Kurds and Shias, they were not happy. And I no need to tell you about the Kurds, what happened to them between 1921, since the Faisal, until 2003. Okay, they were together, but it was not, a happy together. It was a forced marriage, and the Kurds then now decided to end this divorce. And what do you think, if Kurds declare their independence, what will be the Sunnis' reaction to this? Will they accept this or challenge this? And second, I understand what the Jafari, what the Maliki, they did to Sunni people after 2003. It is true. But why between 2003 and 2009, extremist groups, Al-Qaeda, or Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, all different groups become pioneering of the Sunni revivalism, or they took the leadership of the Sunni movements against the Shia or the American? Why not Sunni people? Why these extremist groups?
Yes, so about the Sunni-Shia divide from a European perspective, or what we can know about this, it's about leadership, who is entitled to lead the Muslim community. And the Sunni, the Sunnah claim that it is the most able person from the community who can be entitled as the leader, while the Shia claims that it has to be from the family of the Prophet Muhammad, who is the leader of the Muslim community. And they have to, Shiism has to give extra, because saying that, okay, it is the most able person, it is clear why. But why from the family? They have to collect some extra arguments for this claim that it has to be from the family. And these claims make put some extra values and on the family of the Prophet and his descendants, and this argumentation is going quite emotional, quite esoteric. What kind of plus? What kind of extra abilities and in what way they are more empowered than ordinary human beings. So this is, I think it makes the argumentation quite emotional. And what the Shia revivalism brought into the picture is like a constant drawing constant parallels between past and present. So it's kind of victimhood that they are victims. What happened more than 1,000 years ago, it is constantly repeated in the present. So they have a general sense of being victims and referring to the past, and they vested the imams and the household of the Prophet's household with extra values. So I would say that it makes the argumentation quite sometimes quite irrational, and in this particular case, what we can witness now is very handy to say that yes, the bad guys are always from the Sunni side, and we are the good ones. So to identify ourselves with the values and claiming that the arrogance comes only from the Sunni side, and about the Islamophobia, I think any act which is violent or arrogant from Muslims is is a big argument for the Islamophobe people. So actually, any clashes among Sunni or Shia or any argument, harsh arguments, just prove that or give another proof for those guys, saying that yes, it is an inherently violent religion. And I think that on the other hand, this kind of what the Norwegian case study says about the clashes and tensions between the two communities, what is really striking is the kind of what I wrote, this recycling of Islamophobic statements and using against the other side. So it is a very very dangerous venue, I would say. Yes, and for the as for the sectarianism, it's not a Shia privilege. Of course, it is not. It was just a matter of focus in this paper. Because if I have to speak about Sunni and Shia radicalism, it takes an hour, and with my English maybe 2 hours. So it is this is a very very deep topic. I completely agree that on both sides there are actors and institutions heavily paying on this issue. So it is not a Shia privilege at all. And why the West is not taking stronger or harsher or more strict measures. I think to some extent West, if there is such a thing as West, it's always tries to profit from these internal divisions, and always trying to have friends and to play out. I mean, it is about. I think it is about a matter of interest, playing in the Middle East, and also a part of, I think, irresponsibility. I think the West knows nothing about those people who are coming, not now, but in the past decades, never took the pains to understand culture, logic, religion deeply. So that's why there is very little knowledge about the values and very little knowledge about the dangers that are present in this situation. Yeah, I think, was there anything else? Any other question? I think it was not.
Thanks. So the first question was whether Iran's position in Iraq was offensive or defensive, and it sounds like sophistry, but I would say it's a defensive act to protect offensive gains. So Iraq is certainly in recent times Iran's biggest strategic gain in the region, certainly its most important. So I mean, I think that if we want to kind of reduce it to kind of this sort of geopolitical strategy, that's what this is about. It's about protecting that gain, which obviously can act as a springboard, certainly into the Arab world, and kind of on the chessboard of the Middle East, can provide leverage and projection in terms of vis-a-vis Saudi Arabia. So I think it is a defensive act, but I mean but obviously with that kind of defensive strategy in mind. The Saudist response, yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting looking at what happened recently with the Green Zone and the Parliament and Sadr and the Saudist movement there. I mean, I think that this is seen by Sadr as a crux point for the new Iraq. Once fighting ISIS here, and at the same time the fight against corruption and Taifiyah in Parliament, and I think maybe certainly I don't. Sorry, as you said, it's not exactly sectarian. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that Sadr has. I don't have the space here, but there's been an enormous development since 2003, or even since 1999, and we have to see a leader developing or political figure developing over time, according to context, according to the situation, according to a bunch of different issues. So, I think that it's quite clear that he and his close colleagues have a conception of Iraq and what it should be, and that this is a crux point in which to get involved, and that actually the solutions come from that central issue of the government and how Iraq works in terms of its elites, in terms of corruption, in terms of political recourse to express grievances for different communities and so on. I think it's been quite interesting watching that unfold. And just on that point, I had to simplify it. Certainly there shouldn't be a elision of the Sadrists with the Hashd. I take that point. It's and particularly not since 2015. Sadr has said on numerous occasions that he's condemned the acts of the militias, that he thinks they should definitely be completely stopped the minute ISIS is defeated, that there has to be respect for this idea of Wajib Kifai, and there shouldn't be this rolling on, and certainly increasing irritation with the Iranian use of the Hashd, I think, which we saw this thing recently with the argument over the flags, the idea that you shouldn't raise other flags other than the Iraqi flag in Iraq. But your question was about why the West is silent. I think that many of the things that Bianca expressed is correct there. Ignorance and broadly as well, we have to think about the fact that this is not necessarily foreign policy. It's often there's an argument over whether foreign policy and international relations are that important for voters. I am a student of international relations, and I focus on the foreign policy of Middle Eastern actors. Unfortunately, I also accept that to most people in Britain, it's the kind of thing you get angry about when you read in the newspaper, but it's not a vote winner. What happens? I don't think, unfortunately. So I think the question is how salient in importance the issue is. But also, I just think there is this weariness and fatigue about issues in the Middle East, and this almost feeling, I suspect, among policymakers that just let them hammer it out. Right? This is the banal and sad truth, I think, unfortunately. What is the solution? If I knew, I'd be screaming at Hyde Park Corner. Because really, I love Iraq. I really do love Iraq and Syria and Lebanon. I've spent a lot of time in these places, but I was thinking actually more or less on this question on the train in this morning, and about whether we should be thinking about tri-state, certainly more devolved federalism, or even the notion of a sort of tri-state. But then, what does that mean in a region of ravenous neighbours? I don't know. Or maybe a Lebanese model where essentially you have fiefdoms, right, where everyone just runs themselves, except when it comes into conflict. But then, of course, as we've seen in Lebanon in 2008, one group has to have all the guns, and then it's all very well having fiefdoms where everyone looks after themselves, but when interests collide, the group with the guns pushes their interests through. So, I don't know. I'm half Scottish and half English, so even here we think about these issues, and I understand that if you feel that some of your heritage is from a historic nation, it's difficult sometimes to work out how these things should be. But probably, actually, my solution to both the issues in Iraq and the issues in Britain are the same, which is increased devolution and increased localism, and a system that works like that. The question is whether that's possible, and I don't think it's possible without actors like Sadr pushing hard, and it has to be bottom up. It has to be popular. I'm not, Sadr. There's lots of problems with him. I'm not saying, but the point is that I do think there has to be a move to topple the constricting hold that the elites have now in Iraq. Because without that, there's going to be no way of envisaging a new possibility, which would be something like this devolved. Maybe federalism, maybe not, but certainly devolved and a more localistic political solution. And as you say, otherwise, well, we're talking about whack-a-mole with ISIS. You crush people with bombs, but then that's.
Sorry,
it doesn't
Michael, I
help
have
at
to
all.
interrupt you.
Sorry,
We're
but
running
yeah,
out of time.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And so Sabah, I think there is a question for you, right?
What Sunni people wants from the Iraq really?
Well, I think the Kurdish question is an issue which is not an Iraqi one. It's a regional one. I think, first of all, the Kurdish scene itself is fragmented. It's tribalism. There is a sense of identity, but you have a problem because it transcends borders. I don't think the Turks will be very happy. I don't think the Iranians will be very happy, the Syrians or the Iraqis. So the idea of maybe it's an utopia, yes, people have rights, but I think under the political scene we have, especially with the use of force, and especially that the Kurdish entity in Iraq that they have taken over land which is so-called disputed and what have you, and they are playing the role that we will fight ISIS on condition 1, 2, 3. So I don't think there is a real sense of trying to solve a problem. So I think it is one of the problems, but I don't think there is a solution for it. Thank you.